If it's measurable, it matters. All data is equal. That is absolutely not true, and I'm going to talk you through why that is.
Hello and welcome to Engage and Thrive, also known as EAT, your coffee catch-up with me, your host, Taelon, where we will go through common problems and hurdles that come up in business, marketing and advertising and try and demystify them. I know firsthand how complicated and confusing it can seem with all the different acronyms and all the things to do in business. So let me try and help you be better in business. First things first, let's start with grabbing a coffee.
Right, to straight up myth bust this, just because it's measurable does not mean it's meaningful. I would say as a runner-up to target customer profiles, then data is probably one of the topics that I'm most passionate about. And I say this because I'm always talking about how you should track and measure everything. And obviously, wherever possible, do try and track everything. And I covered an episode before, even about how to track activity offline. But what I would say, that in itself sometimes becomes an issue. And I know that data overwhelm is a thing because you start having so much information and so many numbers that you're almost like, what should I be tracking? What should I be paying attention to? And that's when decisions can be made potentially on the wrong data. So yes, obviously have all the data possible to be tracked, but what we're actually going to go through today is about what is the meaningful data that you should be paying attention to and making business decisions about. As always, let's go through vocab. The first one being CTR, click-through rate. So this is the percentage of people clicking on a link after viewing it. The next one is ROI, return on investment. This is the value back from your investment you made. And I don't mean investment in stocks and shares. I mean investment in doing a website, social media, hiring a new team member. It's what you're getting for your value for making that investment. Churn rate, percentage of people who have stopped using your product or service. KPI, key performance indicator, a measurable value tied to specific goals. Attribution, understanding which touch points or channels get credited for a conversion. LTV, customer lifetime value, so the projected revenue a customer will generate through their relationship with your business. Impressions, the number of times your content is displayed regardless of clicks. So I like to call this the eyeballs. How many eyeballs are you getting on your content? CR, conversion rate, the percentage of users that have taken a desired action out of your total visitors. CPA, cost per acquisition, the actual cost for acquiring a sale. And the last one is vanity metrics. So these are metrics that look good, but don't always reflect the true performance. Number one, metrics that mislead. Now, this is something that, especially with digital marketing and the digital world and having a lot of things online, can be metrics that look amazing and sound really good and people want to shout about. But these are actually vanity metrics that, if you're making business decisions about, aren't necessarily the right metrics to be making those decisions. And these are things like how many likes a post get, how many followers you have on social media, how much traffic you get to your website, but not the conversions. What's your open rate of your emails, but people not actually clicking through and buying something or taking an action. The revenue you have, but not your profit. The leads you're generating, but not the conversions. The video views, but not the watch time. And these are the ones where obviously track them, obviously monitor them, but don't make big decisions about them. So of course, when you're doing reporting, you want to understand what are the impressions of your content or how many people are liking your content. But you also need to think about the next stage and phase of that content to understand the engagement around it and what would you do next. The same being said, obviously understanding all this traffic to your website you may have, but if people aren't doing anything, then it's as good as nothing. So vanity metrics are the ones to be aware of, but not use them in your reporting for making business decisions about where you're next going to spend your marketing budget or how you might change features in your app or different types of services you want to offer, because these metrics can be misleading as they're vanity metrics, and so they're not actually your target customer. They're not actually the people that are buying your products and services. I would call these people almost the observers, because they're just viewing your content, either seeing it on social or going to your website or opening your email, but they're not taking any action. So in terms of a priority of wanting to appease them of what you're doing, they should be way down your list. And they're not the ones that you want to be reporting to your CEO or using as numbers if you're trying to get investment or trying to increase your budgets. Which nicely leads into number 2, valuable metrics. So these are the metrics that really answer your why. And these should be aligned with your business goals and also your business department. So if you're in sales, you want to be thinking about your lead score. Or if you're in marketing, you want to be looking at your conversion of your content. So whether that's click through on links of content you've posted, or engagement rates, or in your emails, actually clicking through from what you're sending an email about. And this is really where you also marry up the data to tell your whole business story. So essentially, you know, when people talk about the different parts of the funnel to get a lead in and actually convert into a paying customer. And this is where you really need to relate it back to your business goals and understanding what you're trying to achieve. So if you are just trying to achieve an increase in brand awareness, okay, what does that look like and what's the impact? So of course you would want impressions and you would want likes, but actually then what you want after the brand awareness, you want brand ambassadors, you want people referring your product. If you're doing any marketing activity, you probably want people to sign up or buy. If you have an app, you want monthly returning users. If you offer a service, you may want to be thinking about your lifetime value of your customer or your retention rate. So how long do you keep clients or patients? How often do they return back to you to buy more? And again, with all of these, it depends on your industry, it depends on what you're looking to achieve as a business, but these are the ones that give you your story. These are the ones that you need to be keeping an eye on. These are the ones you can make business decisions about. Which on this, talking about valuable metrics, it's also understanding what the data means and so what to it. And that's, I suppose, the part that sometimes can be the missing piece of the puzzle with having all of these metrics and trying to understand what to monitor, is actually how to interpret the data. So how do you tell the story from your data? Which obviously, when I'm talking about linking up with departments, that's part of your story. Understanding that flow, understanding how long does it take to convert a customer, understanding if customers didn't buy your product or service and they went to a competitor, why? What is the competitor offering? What didn't you showcase that actually you do offer? Is it a geographical thing? Is it a features thing? Is it a price point thing? All of that is part of your story. And then that all should lead back into and funnel into your different departments so they can act on that information and that part of the story and that data to then do something about it, actioning it. Which then, number 3, prioritizing metrics. So this is where you would then take your valuable metrics and actually decide how you want to report on it and how you're going to benchmark that data. So the first thing to think about with benchmarking the data is, what's the industry standard? So what do we expect in hospitality? What do we expect in healthcare as a conversion? Then you want to think about your other benchmark is, what were you doing now? And therefore, what are you doing next month? So did it increase or decrease? Whatever that metric is. Some things you may want it to decrease. For example, on your website, your bounce rate. So that's when people go to your website and then within 30 seconds jump off. You don't want that to increase each month. You want that to decrease. So this is where you can start thinking about a data strategy, which may sound completely bizarre, but what I mean is mapping out all your different touch points that you have and can get data from, then reviewing those metrics and understanding what's a vanity metric and what's a valuable metric, and then thinking, right, how frequently do we want to update that information? So typically you want to be reviewing the valuable metrics at least once a month. So create yourself a monthly report or a dashboard where you can review it and see the month-on-month performance and even the year-on-year performance. So do you have fluctuations? Depending on seasonality, depending on Christmas, Black Friday, summer holidays, that can all impact it, which again, part of your story and prioritizing your valuable metrics, you can feed in external factors. Is it that Google rolled out a new algorithm and so it's drastically hit your website? Is it that a new competitor has hit the market and so therefore that has tanked your social media engagement, but what are you going to do about it next month? Now, if you're interested in monitoring this more frequently than once a month, and you like live dashboards or logging into the platforms and seeing analytics, great, that's cool. And obviously be aware of that, notice it, pay attention, especially if you're doing paid media. You want to be paying attention to what's happening in case you need to change tactics. But what I would say is don't check it too frequently, or if you are, don't make those business decisions too frequently, because a lot of times changes that you make may need a cooling off period. So if you've launched a new campaign, you may need some time for influencers to share or your brand ambassadors to share, or if it's a paid media campaign, you may be doing A/B testing in the first couple of weeks. So you don't want to be making big decisions about that campaign in the first couple of weeks. This is where little rather than lots is probably the most important thing. But having in your data strategy what your metrics are that you want to record and will make decisions about, and then the frequency that you're going to be doing these reports or these updates and make those decisions about. So it might be that you decide you want to do weekly tracking of information because you have a live dashboard. You're just going to log in and have a little look around. But then you're going to generate a monthly report that you're going to share with your senior leadership team and go through your month-on-month performance. But then every quarter, you'll get together, review that quarter, and almost do like a wrap up of that quarter. What went well? What didn't go well? What are we going to change for the next quarter? Taking into account where the business is aligned in totality, what are the business goals, where's the business direction going, and so as a business, how are we making those decisions? As a wrap-up, not all data deserves your attention. Obviously, yes, track everything, so then you do have that if you want to dig into other data further, but really think about the metrics that are going to move your business forward or move your department forward. So no, not all metrics are equal. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Engage and Thrive with your host Taelon, and see you next week.